Tailgate Kings here. How y'all doing? Hopefully it's 11 o'clock. Hopefully you're having a great morning. We're about to break
Hopefully it's 11 o'clock.
Hopefully you're having a great morning.
Hopefully it's 11 o'clock somewhere.
Look, hopefully I can read a clock still,
Is your computer straight now? You got the right time on there?
I guess I do, and I didn't even realize. I don't know when that happened.
It updated for you.
Yeah, it must have. So, all right. So, like I said, we're going forward. NFL talk. Like I said, the schedules have been released. So far. We'll look at the schedule, look at some games, look at maybe like the top 4 or 5 games on the schedule. We'll start with our New Orleans Saints. Casey, have you looked at the Saints schedule yet, man? Or you want to start, or who wants to start with the Saints schedule? What Casey, you want to start?
I can start it out. Yeah, I can start it out. I've looked at all of our teams, and I've pinpointed the 4 games that I think may be the most important or may have the most impact on their seasons.
All right. So what 4 Saints games are you looking at?
So for the 4 most important games that I have for the Saints, obviously I believe week one against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think is probably, if not the biggest, one of the biggest. The only other one that I think may be bigger than that would be at Tampa Bay, but that may be bigger for Tampa Bay fans instead of Saints fans. I think since this is in Mercedes-Benz, this is probably bigger for Saints. But I think against the Bucs, week 1. Breeze and Brady, the first matchup with with Brady on a different team in his entire career, in the same division. I think this is going to be great. I think it's going to be so much fun. There's a chance that these teams could see each other 3 times this season in the regular season, maybe again in the playoffs.
Right.
So who knows what'll happen? But I think this is a pretty good starting point for the importance of their schedule. And then for the next one, I jump all the way to week 7. Week 7 is the first time they play the Carolina Panthers. Now, other than this being a divisional game, this is the first time that we're going to get to see Breeze versus Teddy, that we're going to get to see Teddy Bridgewater play as a Carolina Panther against the New Orleans Saints.
Right.
So I think this is going to be an interesting dynamic, something we don't see that often, which is a quarterback leaving a team, but arguably still beloved by the team, and maybe even excited at the fact that they get to play Teddy. For the next one, I jump all the way to week 10, 3 weeks past, and that is against your 49ers, Chad. I think this is a really important game for the Saints, not only because they need this season, but maybe to redeem what happened last season. I think the Saints really need this one. I think the 49ers may have lost some pieces. That doesn't arguably make them worse, but maybe gives the Saints a better chance. And then you talk about adding Emmanuel Sanders, so you get to see that interesting dynamic from Manny leaving the 49ers, going to the Saints, and now they get to play each other. So that's going to be super fun. And then I think the last game, week 15, against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, this game, I think, has the potential to have huge ramifications on where the Saints land in the playoffs. And this is assuming that the Saints are going to be as good as we presume they will be. But if you look at this game so late in the season, so important, such a big game, such a difficult game for the Saints, this could arguably be the deciding factor. Considering how close the NFC may be in terms of the playoff seeding, this could be important for the seeding of the Saints in the playoffs this late into the season. So 4 most important games I have for the Saints: week 1 versus the Bucs, week 1 versus the Panthers, week 7 versus the Panthers, week 10 versus the 49ers, week 15 versus the Chiefs. Now, the common theme with all these games, these are super important games, but they're all home games. So it gives them an increased chance to win maybe, but at the same time, if you're losing 4 of these games at home, you drop half of your games at home to these teams, you're going to have a hard time in the playoffs, and then you arguably lose home field advantage. So these games are going to be really important, I think, especially that Chiefs game all the way in week 15.
Yeah, that week 15 game, depending on where those 2 teams are due to injury and other circumstance, that is a legitimate Super Bowl matchup.
All right, so
a preview maybe.
I agree with two of Casey's games. I don't disagree with any of them really, but what do you think, Chad? Do you agree?
I think it's top heavy. Yeah, no, I mean 15 is great.
Okay.
I mean, I think against the Niners at home is important.
All right.
Casey points that out. I think that they've got a debt to settle there, but I like that second game there. The black and gold against the black and silver in the Death Star. That should be an interesting game. That to me looks like a very interesting game. And then you left out your boys there, in week 3, Casey. No Green Bay. That surprised me a little bit. I think that game has a lot of import to it. And then I think the
only reason, Chad, I don't mean to interrupt you, but the only reason I really left that one out is because I feel even no matter which team drops that game so early in the season, I feel like you still have, 13 games in the rest of the season. So early on, I don't think it's as big of a deal for either team whether they lose. Now it's a different story if either team is 0-2 going into that game and then they drop it again and they're 0-3 at that point. But I think no matter what, let's assume both teams after that game are 2-1 or one is 3-0 or 2-1. I don't think it has a huge effect on the rest of the season. That's the only reason I don't think it
does. I think you're right there, completely right. Actually, the only thing is you're seeing 2 of the best teams in the conference play, and whenever you get a chance to see 2 of the best teams play, you get to learn a lot about where their seasons potentially are going. So I think that's what makes it important. Probably not, at that point in the season important, but when you get to play better or as good as you opponents, you learn the most about yourself as a team. And that's one of those, because around it doesn't, there's not a lot. Carolina, Chicago, I mean, there's not a lot there.
What do you think, Jay? What's your 4 games for the Saints?
Jason. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. You mute her.
All right. I don't know if you can hear me. I think their schedule is beautiful, Jay. I think what Chad was just getting to here for the Saints, where their hard games are spaced out and most of them are at home. I do think week 1 against the Buccaneers is nice because it sets the pace. It gives I know the NFL put it first because it's Tom Brady versus Drew Brees, but it also gives the Saints a chance to set the tone for the season and remind people that it's still their division, even if Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski and 1 million bandwagon fans are now buying Buccaneers jerseys, right? Like it's still the Saints division. So, of course, it's a big game. I do think the Packers-Saints game is kind of a huge game, and I think it's huge not only because it's a primetime game and it's Rodgers and it's Brees, but this is the kind of game in week 3 that we might not think it matters, but when there's going to be only one team getting home field advantage at the end of the season, this game is huge. It might only be week 3, but it's going to have playoff implications for both teams 4 months later. So I don't think you can underestimate the import of that game, especially, as Chad pointed out, then you're playing the Lions, you're playing the Bears, you're playing teams that you should beat a lot of the times. So I think that Pack game in week 3 is a lot more important than people will give it credit for. Don't think of it as eye candy, but it has playoff implications.
All right.
And then, it has to be Niners and Chiefs, which are evenly spaced. They're about a month apart. One's mid-December, one's mid-November. And those are games that are going to determine home field advantage. The Niners, obviously, is going to be a head-to-head game, so it's going to determine home field advantage in 2 ways. And then the Chiefs game is going to be important because it's so late in the season and it's going to determine if we get that 1 seed. I think the 1 seed becomes a huge favorite in the NFC. There's just no 2 ways about it. We know that home field is a big advantage. We know that wildcard teams have not made it a lot since the Steelers and Giants 15, 20 years ago. Home teams have wildcard teams that play on the road haven't been doing as well. We know the Saints never fare as well on the road. So, our biggest worry isn't the quality of the team, but getting that home field. So those games, which will determine home field advantage, are the most important. I think those 3 really stand out.
All right, look, I'm with you guys. I'm not buying in on the Green Bay one as much as you and Chad are. I've got the Tampa. I think we all across the board have the first game with Tampa being very important. I'm with you for the reason Jay sets the tone for the season in a sense. Either Brady's going to be 1-0 or Brees is going to be 1-0, and the other one's going to be 0-1, and that's going to set a lot of the precedent for how the division goes. I like next I like that San Francisco game, obviously a revenge game in a lot of ways. A big game in the regular season last season. But then I go to week 16 and 17. I skip over that Chiefs game and whatnot, and I go to Minnesota. Another team, the last 3 years that, or 2 of the last 3 years has taken, the Saints out of the playoffs. So I feel like that game is going to have a lot riding on it. Minnesota is going to be a better team. I think it's probably the latest in the season we've seen them in a while that wasn't in the playoffs. So I feel like that's going to be a really interesting game. And then that final game at Carolina. Casey had the earlier game versus Carolina, and I like the Carolina matchup being an important one with Bridgewater. But I feel like this game, in a sense, Bridgewater, in all likelihood, will have started 15 games by this point. And you're going to know what we gave up to Carolina in a sense. You know, we're going to see what we have left in Breeze versus what Carolina got in Bridgewater. And I'm curious. That game has, you know, it's probably going to have some playoff implications as well. I don't think the Saints are going to get the 1 seed. So I feel like they're going to be fighting for playoff positioning, jockeying for positioning. And I feel like that Carolina game is going to be more important maybe than the Kansas City game. That's just my feeling on those games, guys.
I think that's solid. I think you're right. I think Minnesota is a huge threat in the conference and will be a factor in the postseason and a huge, depending on where they're seated, massive threat to everyone involved.
All right.
I think they're
Do you
just
feel like the
getting them.
NFL like feels bad for the Saints? I mean, how do we get the Vikings, the Chiefs, and the Niners all at home, right? Like it does it, right?
We owed
Packers
you.
at home too, is that right? Like,
Yeah.
how is every hard game at home? Like, I think the Saints have no excuse to not get the 1 seed when your toughest games, except for the division where you split games, your toughest games are all going to be in the dome.
Hey, look, I love that philosophy, Jay. You know, I'm not gonna take anything away from that philosophy. You're right. How do they get San Francisco, Minnesota, Kansas City, Green Bay, all these games at home? You know, I don't know. I mean, that's
We owe you. We owe you. We're sorry.
yeah, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, but then it also leaves us no excuses, right? Like,
right.
you
Yeah.
have no excuse
Yeah.
to not get the 1
Exactly.
seed with every hard games at home.
And this is your best team, really, actually.
Yeah,
If you want to break it down, I mean, minus your boy in Baltimore, the runner Ingram, and this team, this is going to shape up as their most talented team, I think.
yeah. I mean, look, they drafted that tight end we talked about out of Dayton. What Trotman, Jay, right?
Yep.
And like I said,
Yeah, he's a monster too. I think he went undrafted because he wasn't from a name brand school. But here's a guy who I've watched him run over people, man. And he what I think they play 12 games, right? And he had 14 touchdowns and like 900 yards from the tight end position, and a guy who's not afraid to block too. I think he's going to be exactly. Look, I'm not going to say he's going to be Jimmy Graham, because Jimmy Graham put up absurd numbers and Jimmy Graham didn't play alongside Michael Thomas. But I think he's a guy who comes in and makes an immediate impact.
yeah, no, and,
Yeah,
and then
it's-
bringing in Manny Sanders, like I said, it's the best offense Breeze has had probably since the Super Bowl with like I said, with Reggie and
they made all the necessary moves on the offensive line. You see, they, you know, even recently, you know, readjusting and making sure that their early pick is going to be inserted. I think this team is set to be, and I mean it. And have you seen Kamara's off-season workout? The things he's doing? Oh my gosh. The balance stuff, if you can Google it. Watch what he does to train his body to learn how to absorb hits and always be, it's amazing. It's amazing. That guy doesn't have bones. I think he's just got like cartilageous bones that just bend and flex.
University of Tennessee's own Alvin Kamara. All right.